gonna find us?
They don't have a clue where we are.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 thriller Quicksand. The film is directed by Andres Beltran and it stars Carolina Gayton and Alan Hauko, and it is streaming on Shudder. Right, the film follows a married couple that is actually in the midst of a divorce who head on over to Colombia together. She's doing some conference and he's got some work over there, so it makes it easier for them to kind of go over together. He's an avid hiker and she agrees to go on a hike with him. They end up essentially in an area they shouldn't be because somebody tried to rob them, and they end up in falling into quicksand. And then much of the film is these two people stuck in this quicksand trying to figure out how to survive. Right. What are my thoughts on Quicksand? Initially, I wasn't that interested in this film. Sometimes I find films like this, like films like 127 Hours, and the films with up tall buildings, a couple of people stuck up a tall building, or a couple of people or one person stuck in some water surrounded by sharks or something like that. Sometimes I find them a little bit limited, and it's hard for them to continue and create the tension that spreads out throughout the whole movie. And I thought this film was going to be very, very similar to those sort of films. And while it is, for the most part, there is some redeeming qualities to this film. I think to say this film was a bad film would be unfair. It is very watchable. It's got some decent production values here. There's some good direction going on, and the performances are of a very high standard. The actors they chose to play the married couple are very, very good. But I will say that the actress Carolina Gayton, who plays Sophia, she does a very good job with the material she's given, but she's just not a likable character at all. I get that they're supposed to be spiky with each other because they're going through a divorce. He's a little gentler about it, you know what I mean? He still obviously carries a candle for her. She essentially is kind of cut it all off. She's very cold about it all, and she's actually quite cruel a few times as well to him. I just found her a very, very hard character to click with and connect to. But I will give credit to the film. By the end of the film, I had warmed to her considerably because I had sympathised to the plight that not only she was in, but her husband as well, stuck in this quicksand and having to battle the elements to survive. So the film does do a decent job of setting up the film and introducing you to these two characters, because these are essentially the only characters that you're going to get in this film. There are a couple of side players, somebody that they meet at the hotel, somebody that tries to rob them, so on and so forth. But the majority of this film is exactly that. It's just her and him in this quicksand, fighting for survival. Now, some of the things they have to face in this quicksand are things like, ants and a very, very dangerous snake that shows a huge interest in them in this quicksand. So they've got things like that to fight off and battle the elements, as well as their own health and paranoia, all that kind of stuff that you see in films like this. The film does a decent job of presenting the danger that they're in. But there are, for me, too many scenes where they are in this quicksand having conversations with each other about, themselves or the marriage or the kids or so on and so forth. And I don't know, it just became it felt like they were trying to stretch this film out. And as some of the scenes felt unnecessary. I think they could probably... It's not a long film, I wouldn't say, by any stretch of the imagination, this. But it feels like they could have edited it down a little bit, or even, turned it into an anthology piece for a film. It did feel as though this film was stretched out way more than it actually needed to. But, it definitely did a good job, this film, of holding your attention. And I was impressed by the performances by everybody here, especially obviously the husband and wife. And you know, it's as a thriller, it does a reasonable job of building and holding tension. There's just not enough of it, really, to for you to come away and feel like. I mean, for me, a good thriller, you know, it almost has to be like, you know, a white knuckle ride. You know what I mean? Really get you on the edge of your seat and really invested into the outcome of these characters and plights that they're in, and you know, lifting you up and holding the tension there, and then releasing it. And it's a different ride than the ride you go on to watch a horror, and it's a different ride than you go on when you're watching action. You know what I mean? They give you different highs, those films. Sometimes, obviously, you'll get an action thriller, and sometimes you'll get a horror thriller, so on and so forth, and they blend everything nicely. This one's really just a straight thriller, and it doesn't thrill throughout. And I do think a lot of people will find it hard to connect to this Sophia character because she's just so cold and cruel early on in the film, to the point where you actually wonder how he ever loved her. Do you know what I mean? There's a character in this film that says to them at one point, "Wow, when he explains to them that they're going through a divorce, and he says to them, "Wow, you're the perfect couple." And I'm thinking, really? Where's he got that from? And it felt like there was no chemistry. And I think that was done obviously on purpose because they were feeling distant because they were going through a divorce. But it didn't feel any connection there. But again, I do give the film credit. When they go in this quicksand and reconnect, I suppose, to a large degree, you feel that bond strengthening again. So while you start off the film disliking one of the characters quite a lot, by the end of the film, the film does actually do a fairly decent job of building them bridges between the characters and building that bridge between you, the audience member, and the characters as well. So I recognise it was done on purpose. It's a difficult film to get into because of it. So yeah. So I would recommend Quicksand if the concept sounds interesting to you and you like some of those films that I mentioned earlier. You know, the people up on the high cliffs or buildings stuck sort of thing, and then those stuck in water and surrounded by sharks and all that kind of stuff. If those are sort of films that you like to watch and those are kind of thrillers that you enjoy watching, then there's definitely going to be something here for you to enjoy. I just think it certainly could have been, I think, a lot more intense and improved on an awful lot. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.